Hello, hello. I want to welcome everyone to Beauty Superstars Talk. We are here with my guest, Stephen Gomez, and we're going to have an awesome conversation. So, I just have one quick question for you, and that is, have you ever wanted to be a six-figure stylist? And if the answer is yes, it's like I personally have helped a lot of people do that, and I've met with a lot of people who've come to me who said, help me, I want to become a six-figure stylist. And so we meet, we sit down, do the numbers, and based on what I'm coming up with, based on what they've told me, they're already making six figures. And they had no idea. Number one, they don't know where the money went. And number two, and it's like, what? And so we are here with someone who is a financial guru, if you will, or financial expert within the beauty industry specifically. And we're going to have a great conversation because I think this is more common than we realize. And we really want to shed some light to give people a foothold of running their business in a better way so that they can create the profit that they want. Because I don't think anyone comes into this industry because they want to struggle. So I will share, my name is Mickey Wright. I'm with Beauty Superstars Talk. And this is your backstage pass to experts in beauty. And we want to have a great conversation today. It's like I'm actually working with business owners of all types, helping them because I don't know if you know, but no matter how great your credit is, 8 out of 10 business owners are not able to access funding from their banks, the money that they need to expand. And so I have an option for you. And it's like I'm excited about that and just being able to support businesses in growth and going forward. So welcome, Steve.
Thank you for having me, Mickey. It's an honor.
Yeah.
Mickey and I know each other for years, everybody, and we used to share training rooms out on the road at all the big shows that I'm still out there grinding at. But my friend Mickey was smart enough to, not be at anymore to save her some time and health. Talk to my lower back, Mickey. But anyways,
Okay.
yeah. So we've known each other for years, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for who you are, for how you roll, how you jam, what you do, what you offer, and you're just a beautiful soul. So I'm just happy to be with you.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. And in some ways, it's like we've known each other for years, and definitely
Yes, for
great
sure.
respect is there, shared the rooms, like you just said. But in some ways, we've been ships in the night. Your class
Yeah. Oh,
is ending,
yeah.
I'm coming in, my class is ending, you're coming in. So
Yeah.
back us up, kind of tell us, how did you get into this industry? Because you were,
Sure.
like you
You
said,
know, I
rocking and rolling.
I, I grew up in and around it, so I've been around it my whole life, and I uh, helped to run a family biz, and I launched a marketing company, and I ended up marketing over 100 salons and spas over about an 8-year stretch,
Wow.
all over the United States. I was good at what I did. I loved what I did. When it came to helping other people build their businesses and grow their client base, I loved it. Um, I was good at building my company, but I was horrible at money management. I barely got past algebra in high school. Never thought I was smart enough to understand it, avoided it. My idea of profit was, well, as long as we're busy and we got full books and the bills are paid and we got full books tomorrow, then all is well. I got money in my pocket. Let's go shopping. And that's how I was living. And back in those days, I mean, we're talking 3 decades ago now. We were way more of a cash and check business. We weren't as digitized as we are now, so
Right.
we didn't have really credit card processing as much. And if we did, we were taking a slip and putting the credit card on it and running a pen across it. Right? I mean, it was the old school stuff. So when the cash and the tips came in, they went right in the pocket and right out the door. And I got audited, and they saw that, and they went 5 years back on me, and I owed them 80 grand I didn't have, and that drove me to bankruptcy, and I lost my home and was couch surfing at my mom's and my brother's again, and not wanting to give up. And it was at that time that a salon that I was doing some marketing for out in Omaha introduced me to his coach, and couldn't afford her. So I had to go to the bank of mom, and I think we've all hit that bank up in some way, shape, or form, mom, dad, uncle, whoever. And I got a loan to hire my coach, and I started I wanted to turn my company around, and I wanted to learn the right way how to do it. I wanted to fight for it. But the biggest thing, Mickey, that I learned that has propelled me onward from then to now, that my coach worked with me on, was that it was the genesis of my thinking and my perception that I wasn't smart enough to understand this stuff that was getting in my way. That was the barrier I was putting up between me being able to see anything in my future, and all of my behaviors, habits, actions, good, bad, there within, came from it. Like my work ethic was really great because I thought, okay, I'm not smart enough. I have to be the first one there, the last one to leave. I have to out hustle, so that created a great work ethic in me. But it was to mask my belief that I wasn't smart enough to understand this type of stuff. So I figured, let me just work really hard to make so much money I never have to worry about managing it, because there's going to be so much of it, which was just a crazy thought. But that was a thought process. So working with my coach helped me shift my thinking that I was smart enough to understand it. And then I learned everything the right way, rebuilt the company the right way, was able to pay off all the debt, rebuild the credit, sold that, became profitable. And that company gave me a chance to join them. And I never looked back. Out to California I went from Chicago, and here I am 31 years in. I've coached now over 700 salons, spas, clinics of all different shapes and sizes. That company I work with got bought by Milady. I worked with Milady for about an 8-year stretch as a writer. Loved doing that, loved working with them. And then in 2016, progressed to opening my own company. And I wrote my first book, Financial Fitness, that year. And, I really want those of you that, are stigmatized by, understanding finances and think it's a quagmire, it's not sexy and fun, it's dry to you, or you were like me, you just think you'll never understand it. I want you to think about my journey. I was in the same way of thinking, and it dictated results for me. I was able to learn and shift out of it, grow through it. And it's propelled me to help over 700 companies and counting, and present all over the world as an educator, because I was so empowered by what I got out of that I spend my life helping us do the same thing. So if I can do it, so can you. I now have a book with 20 industry specific spreadsheets and algorithms, and I teach and in a very nuanced way the world of salon, spa, and clinic finance. I've also written a book called Interdependent Leadership: Creating a Culture of Inclusive Growth, because it's one thing to understand your data. It's a whole nother thing to be able to convey and communicate what that data is saying to those that are involved in helping you run your business and working with you. Whether you own a brick and mortar and you have a team, or whether you're working in a suite, you're still partnering with sales consultants. You have peers and other suite owners that you connect with. So the ability to get grounded culturally in your core values and who you are and how you communicate that brand message to the world, and the ability to back it up systematically behind the scenes with the right structure, the right training and education platforms, the right marketing plans, the ability to really support your team and how to communicate and convey guest service in a way that paints the picture for what they're going to get and that is delivered upon. All of that stuff is my world. And I convey that through my books, through my webinar series, through my live events. I have a book coming out next year called The Service Cycle, which is all the different touch points that make or break guest service and drive long-term retention and profit. And my wife and I spend our whole life, really dedicated to our industry. And she's launching a bookkeeping service next year, and we're adding that on because that's a big need out there, industry-specific bookkeeping. So my wife, Nancy, is working behind the scenes right now to get that up and running for next year. So, we have our hands and hearts in a lot of different places, and we're just really committed to help. And, at the end of the day, this doesn't have to be hard unless you say it's going to be. And when you eradicate that type of thinking and become curious about this part of your business, it supports you to strengthen your resolve no matter what's going on in your world, and that's kind of a little bit of my background and where my passion lies, Mickey.
Yeah, just a little bit, right? It's quite a bit, but that is so wonderful to hear. There's a couple, probably more than a couple, but there's a couple things that I want to kind of zoom in on. One
Sure.
of the things that you said that stood out to me is that you used to hustle or want to out hustle everybody almost as a mask. And we've been, traditionally in this industry, specifically in a hustle culture. And I think a lot of that is hopefully shifting a bit. But tell us more about that part. What was like, there's a difference between the work ethic and the hustle and
Okay.
mentality wise, and the,
Sure.
the
Sure.
hustle
So,
being the mask.
I mean, to me, I just felt the harder I worked, the more I did, the longer hours I put in, the better off I was going to be, and to a certain extent, because of that effort, yes, I was able to scale and build, but at a tremendous cost. I had no work-life balance whatsoever. I was
Mhm.
consumed by everything. I didn't know how to replace myself. So, as the face and leader of the business, I had to do everything. I was
Mhm.
working around the clock always. And, there was no time for me to stop, reflect, think, pivot, shift, learn how to analyze. None of that was going on. That
Mhm.
was hustling.
Right.
Work ethic, was me shifting and realizing through working with my coach. And now it's what I do as a coach is I help people shift their thinking, get everything organized financially from a data driven point of view and from a systematic point of view. We have to strengthen everything first, get everything foundationally in place, right? So get the P&L industry specific and reorganized, and then start tracking it monthly. Get all the sales data that we can get our hands on. If you have to invest in software programs, do what you need to do so you're getting what you need to do in real time, and so that we have the truth communicating to us. Look at each area of the business from a marketing, from an operational, from a sales perspective, and what are the missing systems, scripts, training that will strengthen what we're doing, so that what we're putting out to the world, we're delivering upon behind the scenes, and so that we're culturally investing in people, so that the people that are choosing to trust us with their livelihood are getting the time and attention from us that they need.
Mhm.
Also, then shifting, if you own a brick and mortar and people are counting on you to lead and guide them, helping you work less as a taskmaster and less as a technician, so that you can give your business the attention that it needs, because your business doesn't care how you feel. Your business doesn't care about the economy. Your business doesn't care about an election year. Your business cares about what you're doing to grow it. And it constantly needs your attention. So what I do as a coach is I help people do that. And to me, that's work ethic. It's ethical, it's empowering, it's integrous to realize that the moment you choose to open a business, you're no longer a technician, you are a business owner. But in our industry, most of us fail to realize that. And we, pigeonhole ourselves behind the chair in the treatment room, and we're doing that 5 days a week, 4 to 5 days a week. And then all the leftover time is just to keep the business running. So we don't spend time thinking, reflecting, analyzing, understanding, being accessible, any of those things. So we become emotional, situational, and reactive
Mhm.
managers versus thoughtful, reflective, proactive leaders. So what I do as a coach is I help people shift into having that type of work ethic, so that over time they are giving the business the attention that it needs, so that the business can scale the right way, the people get the attention they deserve,
Right.
so that they continue to grow. And if you're listening to this and you work for yourself, then your goal is through strategic price increases, which my friend Mickey can help you with,
Mhm.
through increasing your retail markup percentage, through marketing promotions, through focusing on relevant add-on treatments each week. Then what you're going to do is you're going to increase your sales volume, so that you can then say, okay, I'm now going to take Thursday afternoons from 1 to 5, and I'm not going to see clients. So I'm going to see 3 less guests, that I would see in that time period. So now I have a 4-hour window, if I work for myself, to work on my business. So I don't have to do it on a Sunday or a Monday. But even though the money grew, it's now going to come back down here to where I was. So the thing is, when you grow your sales, usually you just like that money so much, you just keep doing it. And now you're just busier. So what we're talking about is grow the sales through price increase, markup, add-ons, so that you can work less, strategically see less people, and the money will come back to where you were, but now you have more time.
Right.
And if you work with people, then strategic price increases and markups and focusing with them on add-ons and then driving new client acquisition and knowing that number right off the top of your head. Like Mickey and I want to call you at 4 a.m. and say, how many new guests have you had year to date? And how many of them have been rebooked? And how many of them are purchasing retail? Right? When you know that data, you are empowered to say, I can now slowly move guests over to Mickey so I can work one less day behind the chair in the treatment room. Data drives confidence, which drives decision-making, which drives the ability for you to lead and guide, which creates magnetism and empowerment. And all of that drives retention, not only from people coming in to spend their hard-earned dollars in your business, but also the people that are willing to stay with you and trust you with their livelihoods.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That was a lot. And one of the things, when I had a salon and spa was, someone has to lead the ship. It doesn't lead itself, and it's not something you can always turn over to others. You can get a lot of other support, but I think what you're sharing is really critical, because as the business grows, it's like there's more demands of what the business needs. And like you say, having some accessibility to be able to support your team, in the moment or what have you, but also having the time and the bandwidth to be able to plan, to kind of see the bigger picture instead of being in the, quagmire every day. It's like, oh, this is all I see. But it's like, what's the vision? How are you, informing that vision, hopefully with your team as well. But how does that get conveyed, and how does it get translated, like you say, on a day-to-day basis?
Yep.
And I think sometimes we don't realize, I say this all the time, that business is run by the numbers, and we don't really realize that. And so I think what you're talking about with data is just so key. And one of the things that you talked about was long-term retention. And right now, it's like I've been hearing more shifts in people's business, where they're seeing people coming in less frequently, potentially. They're not as busy as they used to be. Prices and costs are raising and all of those types of things. And I think retention is a really key piece to the puzzle, not the whole puzzle, but a key piece in it. So what can you share as far as like retaining our guests, getting clients that we may not have seen back into our business?
Cool.
And and keeping them so that they're coming back on a fairly regular basis, so we create consistency with their income.
Sure. I love that you're asking me about this, because to me, we always have to be at the tip of the spear in guiding our business. And one of those key performance indicators is client retention. So first of all, I'll go back to what I said a moment ago. When we're looking at, okay, clients are coming in a bit less frequently. So it's more infrequent. Maybe instead of 8 times a year, they're now coming in 7 times a year. So what does that mean? Well, if your average ticket's $100, that's $100 less, and if that's across the board, we're talking a lot of money. However, how are you combating that? There's a seesaw, and that's going back and tracking your new client acquisition, because everybody's gaining new clients every month. But if you're not looking at that number, then it feels like, oh, we're losing. So I have all of my clients that I coach have to submit weekly new guest acquisition. And then I want to know specifically, what are we doing with them? Are we rebooking them? Did they purchase retail? Did they add on a treatment above and beyond what they were scheduled for? Because those 3 things tell me that we are performing with those guests. That means that in the treatment room or behind the chair, we're making relevant recommendations from a service point of view. We are looking as a professional at that person, assessing what we know to be the optimum and recommending that. And whether they say yes or no is irrelevant. My integrity as a professional is to make the optimum recommendation that's going to serve health, well-being, and look, period, end of the day. And when I come from that place, I should see more results. Then am I retailing because at-home care makes a big difference, and it really drives the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that, Mickey, we look at rebooking, which is me controlling the service over time for somebody. I need you to hold on for just 1 second. Sorry.
Okay.
Be right back.
Okay. Yeah, I think what he's talking about with rebooking is critical. It's definitely one of the key indicators for your business. And rebooking, just as a definition, I would say is they are in your presence and they're scheduling their next appointment before they leave.
Correct.
Which is different than retention. It's like retention means they'll come back, and with rebooking, sometimes it's like, oh well, if they like my service, they'll come back. It's like you said, it's taking it into your hands and actually making those.
Sorry about that. My fire alarm started beeping. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, we need to.
That's your business communicating to you. But if I'm going to add to what we're talking about here, so let's start with the seesaw battle. There's infrequency. So let me look at what we are getting. And what's my percentage of rebooking? I want you to at least be 40%. 4 out of 10 new guests are coming back. Typically, I'm finding 20% to be the norm because we're just not looking at it. We're just happy to get a new person, but we're not tracking our level of effectiveness and efficiency. And if you manage a team of people, track this per person and then make the acquisition of new clients meritorious with your team. Meaning, don't just keep feeding new clients to somebody who's not doing what they need to do. If they're not rebooking, if they're not promoting at-home care, if they're not making relevant service-related recommendations, and you're looking at that data, then sorry, you're not getting as many new guests. Because that new guest in this market is a diamond in my hand. So I need to ensure that for my marketing efforts to get that new person to come in and give us a try, because something that we put out there sold them on us to be curious enough to give us a chance with their health and well-being and look, then I'm going to make sure I give that person to somebody who's actually doing the work.
Right.
So make it meritorious, track it. Now, from an infrequency point of view, if we see the guests coming in a bit more infrequently, then get out there and start communicating to them, right? So let's say, you're going to just see that somebody comes in every 6 weeks and it's been 9 weeks, or 12 weeks. So software is really intuitive nowadays, and some of them can help you, like automatically send out excuse me. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
Can automatically send out a message to those clients that haven't been in the last 90 days. But even if you don't have that technology, which my friends, you should go start searching for that stuff for yourself, then at the very least, what you should be doing is pulling some reports yourself to see who hasn't been in the last 90 days. And then reach out to them, start communicating to them, invite them to come back in. And you can even entice them through, hey, send me a friend. You get your service complimentary. Get them working for you. That's a great thing that you can do. Entice them to do that. I wouldn't discount to entice anybody to come back in, because to me, that's a profit loss. But I would certainly invite them to send people in the community, and then they can get their services from you at no cost or very little cost. Because if they're worried about money, but they love you, then maybe they're willing to hustle and recommend somebody to come to you. So you just got to shift and start getting creative. And you must continue to shout from the rooftops who you are and what you provide. And I think a lot of us, Mickey, are worried about less guest traffic. We're seeing infrequency, and then we get in our heads and we start worrying. So my recommendation for all of you, because again, your business doesn't care how you feel. Your business needs you to be seeing these things, and your business needs you to be rolling up your sleeves and fighting, because your business is the chick in the nest, and you have to, as mama bear, or mama eagle, go fly out, find some food and bring it back to the chick. It doesn't matter what the conditions are out there. It doesn't matter if it's raining or windy or it's snowing. You're the eagle. You got to go fly because you got a mouth to feed. That's your business. So we can either be concerned about these things, or we can see them, know that they're cyclical, and fight. So you need to remember two things: be solutions based in what you're putting out there, and remember that you are the safe harbor in the storm that everybody in your community is facing, right? So we're all in it together. Economy's tough, election year, all the chaos. Okay, we can either feed into it and be a complaint, or we can be the solution. And hey, we're the safe harbor in the storm. Come and let go of the swirl and just be in a safe, relaxing, cleansing environment as we lay our hands on you and make you look beautiful and help you feel beautiful, because that's who we are. Be the solution and shout it from the rooftops, and constantly be in that mindset. Fight, fight, fight. That's how we can be.
Yes, and I just want to share this. Sherry Jones says very important, and I
Thank
think
you, Sherry.
it was in reference to not only what you just said, but also to the rebooking and being able to take care of that. So that's awesome. So thank you for joining us. And there are, one of the things I guess that comes to mind is when we talk about seeing clients less frequently, that a lot of assumption is that it's from the pricing. And I don't know if you're finding that or not, or if you're finding that to be true or not, but I think pricing being the first line of, oh, they must not be able to afford it, discounts the other things that we bring to the table that we may not be as on point with as maybe we could, to create that client experience where it's not about the money, but it's more about the experience or something that they may have been expecting that they weren't getting, or all of those things. Tell me your thoughts on that.
Well, all right. Two things I heard there, talking about discounting and talking about frequency of visits, lessening and whatnot, and the assumption of pricing. Here's
the scapegoat.
Here's my thought on that, you guys. Think back to the last time you raised your prices, and then look at what your client traffic was then and what your client traffic is now. And even if you raise them strategically and then clients are spending less money with you, even if that's the case, or I'm sorry, there's less clients with you. That's really what I want to get at.
Okay.
Look at how much money the business is still bringing in, because the increase is going to offset the number of guests that may have left because they don't want to spend that. But again, keep looking at the number of new ones coming in, because even if you get 10 people that say, I'm no longer going to come in and pay that price that you just raised, you're going to get 10 more that month that just came in to try you for the first time that don't even know any different. Right. And in the 10, if you're retaining 4, then that means in 3 months, you'll have gotten back the 10 that left. It is a numbers game. And if you're not tracking all of this information, then you're going to be emotional, you're going to be assumptive, and you're going to worry needlessly, in my opinion. You've got to be thinking the long-term game here. And we are not in business to be a charitable outreach. We are in business to be prosperous. It's one thing to work in a treatment room or stand behind the chair to make a buck to pay a bill to get by. It's a whole nother ball game when you're not having to worry about what's going on financially behind the scenes, because you are priced the right way. And in your pricing, you are covering your expenses, including you getting paid as an expense of your business, including you saving and pumping money into IRAs and retirement plans, and then having operating liquidity to the bottom line. And this is what I teach in my financial fitness book, in my workshops, and in my webinar courses. How to get the numbers organized so you can see very strategically, my prices, no matter what, need to be here in order for me to pay my bills. I get paid and we save for retirement and we have operating cash flow. And I've got to make strategic decisions in my pricing from that perspective. And when people get the solutions that you provide and the experience that you provide, they're willing to spend that. So those of you that are worried about people leaving ask yourself this. Have you yourself in the last 6 months went out and spent $200 on a nice dinner, or even $150 or even $100? Because if you have, then your consumers are going to be willing to spend their discretionary money on what you do as well. So you just have to shift your thinking constantly. You have to stand for what you're not only worth, but what the business needs you to be charging in order to get what you need and to not have to worry. Because then the more you're worried about a bill, you're coming from what you lack, as opposed to be coming from abundance and being growth minded and who you are and what you provide. Right. Now, from a discounting point of view, I'm fine with strategic discounting for short periods of time, but I am not an advocate of long-term discounting to try and get people to do things with you, because that just sends a message to your community that you don't think you're worth what you should be charging. So what's strategic discounting? Okay, we're coming up on the holiday season. So you're going to do a special on gift cards, or you're going to run a retail special as, 12 days of Christmas type of thing, or whatever, right? That's strategic stuff. Or, because you're tracking your data and you're managing your inventory, you see that you over ordered some specific types of SKUs. So then you're going to do like you've got this shampoo that's rocking, but this conditioner that isn't. So you put them together from a merchandising point of view. You showcase them up front in your display strategy. You have placards, you're putting it out on social media. And then, it's buy this, get this at half off. That's strategic because you're trying to boost something and you do it for a short period of time. That strategically makes sense because you're monitoring the trends in your business and you're seeing where you need to give something a boost. I'm also do not advocate fire sales unless you absolutely have to. So if you have an overabundance of something, usually then you're like, well, I've got 20 of these things. I'm just going to do a deep discount to get rid of them. Now, that makes sense as a final resort. But to me, Mickey, what we need to do is we need to understand, why is something selling? Why is something sometimes selling? And why is something not selling enough? Is it a cultural disconnect, meaning the team's not buying in? They don't get it. There wasn't enough education from the manufacturer, from the distributor. Is it placement and merchandising? Is it sell-through? We just have bad habits. We're not recommending throughout the treatment, and we're not recommending at the close of the service. So if we're not doing those things, then, we're missing the opportunity to, make sure that our guests are leaving with what they need. So when we can work on those things over at least 60 days, we can start turning some of those things around and start, pumping life into SKUs and getting them moving. But the best way to give ourselves time is, and what I teach in my financial fitness book, and I actually have a retail profit calculator and a retail markup calculator, where you literally start to mark up your top performing SKUs that are still going to sell based on volume. And then that extra money is buying you back the time to work on the SKUs, to pump life into it, so that we do everything we can before we do a deep discount. So to me, you guys, discounting must be strategic, based on trends and based on data, not just emotionally choosing to discount something to either dump a bunch of stuff that you weren't ready to sell, or doing a discount hoping to get new business who's then now going to relate to you at that price point.
Right. Yeah. I love that you put all those pieces in place, because I think those are sometimes the things that we miss. It's like, oh, well, this isn't moving, there's something wrong with it. And it's like, it's us, are we doing the things that we need to be doing to ensure that it's moving? And so I think such, the critical thinking, of a coach. So, and why you're so good at what you do, because I think it's digging into those, is this in place? Is that in place? And other in place, before we just jump to the conclusion and, like you say, do a fire sale. So excellent stuff. And we've got a comment. Thank you for having this forum.
Thank you, Sherry.
You guys that are joining us.
I'm a Sherry Jones fan.
Okay. And she says it's a career. That's why it's important to charge. It's like, absolutely. It's like, this is not a hustle or whatever you want to call it, but it's like we do need to look at ourselves first in a different light,
Amen.
and what we bring, and that we are in a career.
Amen.
So we're going to start to wrap things up. Is there something that you might want to share with our audience that you haven't
My goodness,
already
there's so
touched on?
much.
Because you've had so much.
So much we could talk about, right?
Right.
I would just say, if there's one thing that I'm committed that you take away from what we talked about today, everybody, it's that, be patient with the process. You have to accept where you are and where you're not. You have to accept how it's going and how it isn't. You have to accept what you know and what you don't. Accept what you have in place and what you don't. If you have a team, accept how they think and relate to things and how they don't. Because when you do that, you ground yourself and you become more patient and graceful and less chaotic and manic and fear-based. You chose to be an entrepreneur. And entrepreneurial thinking means, being risk-taking and being out there and asserting yourself and shouting from the rooftops, this is who we are and this is what we do and this is what we provide. You were willing to take that risk. And somewhere along the way, we get situationally driven, like we talked about earlier. And we forget that to run a successful business means that we must always be rolling our sleeves up and fighting for who we are and what we do. And, take the time, over the rest of this year. If you are by the end of the first quarter, if you go on the journey to get financially organized, and learn the world of salon, spa, and clinic data and understand what your business is communicating to you through the data, then you're going to be able to see things happening before they get worse. And you'll be able to pivot beforehand and be in much more control of what's going on, and allow the data to be your decision-making force as opposed to your emotions and what you feel and think is going on. If this is an area that you think is important for you to take on, however you feel disempowered around it, or you don't think you're smart enough, like that was my story. Notice what you're choosing to think and notice the impact of it and what you're getting out of it. And ask yourself if you're willing to continue to live that way. I invite you, Mickey invites you to lean in and get uncomfortable. Because when you're uncomfortable, that, my friends, is aliveness. And when you're alive to something, that means that you're shifting and you're not doing the same old, same old. You're beginning to go against the grain and go in a different direction. And you're charting a new course for yourself. How I help is, obviously you can follow me. You see my handle there, but, I've got my books. I've got a webinar series. I teach finance for 11 and a half hours. I bring the spreadsheets up. I teach it in a palatable way. You own that for life, and that's a very cost-effective way just to get in the game, getting the books, getting the spreadsheets, getting that stuff. I'm a coach. You can dial in and reach out there. I have a workshop I do on an annual basis about 6-7 times a year where I will literally analyze your data, no matter if it's you have to count the receipts that are in a bowl on top of the refrigerator, and we're starting from there. Doesn't matter to me. Wherever you're at, I'm here to help you go on the journey to be more organized so that you can learn how to understand your data and pivot in a way that is empowering and be more in control. This is your business. This is your company. This is your livelihood. This is what you said you wanted. Think about that. This is what you said you wanted. So what you're getting is a part of what you said you wanted. So you, again, either be a complaint about how it's not going the way you want, or realize that this is the situation you created by being a business owner. So let's lean in, let's fight through, let's learn the lessons, and let's keep elevating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is beautifully said. So thank you. I was like, I really hope that someone caught a hold of that, because it was almost spiritual, what you were saying.
Thank you, my
And
friend.
yeah,
Appreciate
and
doing that.
you said something earlier, become curious. And so I'd like to just
Yes.
add that to what you were saying.
Yes.
And that is a powerful coach that will go through with you with the receipts on the bowl on the refrigerator. Okay.
What I'm here for. I'll tell you this. I like creating a safe and empowered environment for people to learn this stuff, because I was there. I had to go through the same thing. I'll never forget sitting across from my coach, and I happened to be in California for work. And so I had a face-to-face session with my coach, right? Because I was out there. And I'll never forget my coach saying, touch the computer. So I touched the computer. You see, Steve, it's plastic. It doesn't bite. You can figure it out. I'll never forget that as long as I live. I was like, wow, why am I letting these things, scare me? Why am I creating that reality? I can create any reality I want. Why am I choosing that one? And why am I choosing to make up that I'm not smart enough to get this? Why am I choosing to run away from this stuff when I lean into it and realize it's not as hard as I thought it was? And then, I become more confident and empowered and in control. And then I became fascinated by it. And now I've spent 31 years teaching it.
Right.
It's become my life. And I've helped over 700 businesses learn and shift. I'm doing it with 25 salons, spas, and clinics a month worldwide. I mean, if you would have told me I would have been in Puerto Vallarta 2 weeks ago in front of 350 people, I would have told you you're nuts. If you would have told me I'm going to spend this coming weekend where my boy Ted Gibson gets to be the first keynote, and I get to follow my man Ted, and we're in front of 1,000 lash artists, if you would have told me that I was going to be doing that, I would have told you were nuts. I would have said, what are you spiking my coffee with? But you will be amazed at the worlds that will open for you and the mountains that will move when you just become a yes to the things that you're challenged by, and you lean in and grow. Because at the end of the day, that's what's worth fighting for.
Right. Wow. Well, you guys have the information here. Contact Steve. It's at Salon Coach SJG, his initials. And that's on all the social platforms and everything. And so you can definitely reach out to get
a message there. Yeah. And then my email is info@stephengomez.net. So info@STEPHENGOMEZ.net. info@stephengomez.net. Certainly here to help support you all. And thank you, Mickey, for providing me the platform to connect with your amazing audience and people that trust you. You guys are in such good hands with Mickey and what she does. I mean, one of the biggest hearts and one of the greatest givers in our industry. And I'm just glad to see you today, my friend. And you know what? She is timeless. If you would have seen a picture of Mickey and I from 5 years ago, you'll see that I have aged and Mickey just keeps looking younger and better. I don't know what you're doing, but let's teach that class. I'll sign up for that. Okay. I mean, seriously. Yes, Azia, she is amazing. Anyways, much love to all of you. You guys have a great rest of your day and a prosperous week. And let's lean into the rest of this year and finish strong.
Yes. So we've got all kinds of comments coming in. So thank you all so much for joining us. If you're watching us on the replay, we appreciate you. So please join us in a few weeks. We'll be talking more about numbers, because we're going to have an accountant on here. And and she knows our industry. So it's really powerful. So I want to thank you again, Stephen. Thank you so much. So great to see you. It's
great to see you too.
On the road, and I haven't been on the road. So so it's been a minute.
Christina Dunbar and I miss you. That's all I got to say. I saw Christina a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I'm going to be on Mickey's thing. She's like, I miss Mickey. Okay. Anyway, you guys take care of yourselves. Much love to everybody. Thanks, Mickey. Have a great rest of your day, and let's finish this year strong, everybody. Take care.
All right. Take great care. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.